Alright, let's be honest for a second. Some games don't age, they don't fade, they don't get replaced. You can step away from them for years, come back in 2026, and somehow they still hit the same. The controls feel familiar, the music kicks in, and suddenly you're right back there, lost in a world that feels like home. These aren't just good games. These are the ones that shaped us, surprised us, and stayed with us long after the credits rolled. In this video, we're revisiting 20 timeless single-player games that still feel legendary today. No hype, no nostalgia bait. Just pure experiences that still hold up and still deserve your time. There's something about Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, that just refuses to age. You boot it up, hear that opening line, and instantly the world feels alive again. San Andreas wasn't just a map. It was a whole lifestyle. 3 massive cities, endless countryside, secret spots you'd only find by getting lost on purpose, and a level of freedom that felt unreal at the time, and honestly still does. CJ's journey from coming home to a broken neighborhood to slowly taking control of his life hits harder now than it did back then. It's not just about crime or chaos. It's about loyalty, family, and trying to rise when the world keeps pushing you down. And yeah, some of the mechanics are dated, but somehow that adds to the charm. Riding a bike through Los Santos at sunset, hitting the gym just to see CJ get buff, or failing a mission and laughing because you flew off a bike in the dumbest way possible. Those moments stick. In 2026, San Andreas still feels like a complete sandbox, full of personality, attitude, and heart. It's one of those games where you don't just replay missions, you replay memories.
Glory hole theme park.
That just ain't gonna happen.
Have a good day.
Take it easy.
No matter how many times you've played it, Skyrim has this quiet magic that pulls you back in. You hear the wind, see the mountains in the distance, and suddenly, you're not just playing a game. You're wandering. Skyrim isn't about rushing to the end. It's about getting distracted in the best way possible. You set out to complete one quest. Then 3 hours later, you're deep in a cave you weren't even supposed to find, fighting a dragon, and somehow it feels completely natural. The world breathes in a way few games manage. Villages feel lived in. The music knows exactly when to step forward and when to disappear, and every road feels like it has a story waiting at the end of it. What really keeps Skyrim legendary in 2026 is how personal it becomes. Your character isn't just the Dragonborn, it's your Dragonborn. A stealth archer, a spell-slinging mage, or that chaotic warrior who somehow ends up carrying way too much loot every time. And let's be honest, half the fun is modding it until it becomes something new without losing what made it special. Skyrim doesn't just hold up. It welcomes you back like an old friend who doesn't care how long you've been gone. The Witcher 3. Wild Hunt is one of those rare games that doesn't just tell a story, it lives inside you for a while. From the moment you step into its world, everything feels heavy in the best way. Every choice matters. Every conversation feels like it could quietly change someone's fate, and the game never lets you forget that being a hero isn't always clean or simple. Geralt isn't chasing glory. He's tired, experienced, and just trying to do the right thing in a world that rarely rewards it. That grounded tone is what makes the emotional moments hit so hard. You'll find yourself helping a random villager thinking it's a small side quest, only for it to turn into something unexpectedly deep or heartbreaking. And then there's the world itself. Stormy swamps, war-torn villages, peaceful forests that don't stay peaceful for long. It all feels real, like it exists whether you're there or not. Even in 2026, the writing, the characters, and the atmosphere still stand at the top of the genre. You don't just replay The Witcher 3 to see the ending again. You replay it to feel that slow, immersive journey one more time. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't the kind of game you rush through. It's the kind you sink into. From the very first ride across those wide-open landscapes, the world feels quiet, heavy, and real in a way few games ever manage. Every step Arthur Morgan takes feels grounded, like the game wants you to slow down and really live in its moments. riding through muddy trails, watching the sun come up over the mountains, or just sitting by a campfire listening to conversations drift in and out, it all adds up to something special. The story hits hard because it feels human. Arthur isn't perfect. He makes mistakes, questions himself, and slowly realizes the cost of the life he's lived. And that emotional weight never feels forced. It builds naturally, mission by mission, choice by choice. Even the smallest details, like how characters remember what you've done or how the world reacts to your actions, make everything feel connected. In 2026, Red Dead Redemption 2 still stands as a reminder that games can be quiet, patient, and deeply emotional without losing impact. By the time the credits roll, it doesn't feel like you finished a game. It feels like you said goodbye to a chapter of your life.
Oh, now you see where it gets you. Bullets. Push up.
Assassin's Creed 2 is where the series truly found its soul. From the moment Ezio Auditore steps into the spotlight, the game feels personal in a way the first entry never quite reached. You don't just play as Ezio, you grow up with him. You see his family, feel the loss that changes his life, and slowly watch him transform from a reckless young man into a calm, confident assassin. Renaissance Italy becomes more than just a backdrop. Florence, Venice, and the countryside in between feel alive, colorful, and full of history that blends perfectly with the game's mystery and intrigue. Parkour across rooftops still feels smooth, and those quiet moments where you climb a viewpoint and take in the city below never get old. What really makes Assassin's Creed 2 timeless is its balance. It mixes action, exploration, story, and atmosphere without ever feeling overwhelming. The music knows exactly when to rise and when to stay silent, letting emotional moments breathe. Even in 2026, Ezio's journey still hits. Not because of flashy mechanics or modern visuals, but because it tells a story that feels honest, human, and unforgettable.
Come on, Tartaruga.
Batman. Arkham City is one of those games that makes you feel powerful without ever letting you forget you're still human. The moment you drop into the city, surrounded by towering walls and chaos on every rooftop, it clicks. This is Batman at his peak. The combat flows like a rhythm you don't even think about anymore. Punch, counter, gadget, glide. It all feels smooth, instinctive, and incredibly satisfying. But Arkham City isn't just about fighting. It's about atmosphere. The city feels dangerous, broken, and alive, packed with villains who all feel like real threats rather than simple boss fights. Every corner has a story, whether it's a quiet riddle waiting to be solved or a random encounter that turns intense in seconds. What really elevates the game is its confidence. It trusts the player to explore, to piece together the mystery, and to soak in the darker tone without holding their hand. Even in 2026, Arkham City still feels sharp, focused, and endlessly replayable. It's not just one of the best superhero games ever made.
You're gonna die here, Batman.
Max Payne 2 is pure noir distilled into a game. From the moment you step into Max's world, you feel that weight. The world is dark, the people are flawed, and the story hits you in a way that's both gritty and strangely poetic. The slow-motion gunfights, the bullet time moments that let you dive, dodge, and feel every single shot still hold up perfectly in 2026. But it's not just the action, it's the storytelling. Max's narration is dry, sometimes bitter, sometimes wryly funny, and it carries this emotional undercurrent that gives the chaos around him a real human weight. Rain-soaked streets, neon lights reflecting on puddles, tense showdowns with enemies. You don't just play it, you live it. And yeah, the romance and the tragedy woven throughout, it sticks with you longer than most modern shooters ever could. Max Payne 2 isn't flashy for the sake of it. It's sharp, deliberate, and unforgettable, a true classic that still feels cinematic and alive every time you pick it up. Half-Life 2 is one of those games that changed everything without trying to be flashy. You start off in City 17, and almost immediately, the world feels oppressive, alive, and just a little terrifying. The Combine are everywhere. The citizens feel real, and the physics, oh man. The physics still make the game a joy to interact with, even years later. You push crates, launch objects, and use the gravity gun in ways that feel inventive every single time. But it's not just mechanics, it's how the story sneaks up on you. Gordon Freeman doesn't speak, yet the world tells you exactly who he is and what he's up against. The tension, the pacing, the silent moments before a firefight, they're all crafted perfectly. And sure, some of the graphics show their age, but honestly that only adds charm. The environments are still haunting, the story still gripping, and the gameplay still feels fresh. In 2026, Half-Life 2 isn't just playable, it's unforgettable. Even after all these years, it grabs you by the shoulders and reminds you why you fell in love with first-person games in the first place. Portal 2 is the kind of game that sneaks up on you with its brilliance. At first, it feels like a simple puzzle game. Just a few portals, a few cubes, but pretty quickly, it becomes this clever, hilarious, and surprisingly emotional ride. GLaDOS is unforgettable, witty, darkly funny, and somehow almost charming in her own robotic way. The puzzles themselves are smart without ever feeling unfair, and the way the game gradually introduces new mechanics keeps you on your toes the whole time. But what really sets Portal 2 apart is its story. Between the puzzles, you catch glimpses of a bigger, sadder, but also hilarious world, and by the time you reach the end, it hits in a way that's rare for puzzle games. Even in 2026, replaying it feels fresh because every clever trick, every voice line, and every aha moment lands perfectly. And yes, it's still the only game where you can laugh at a cube's death. I mean, come on, how do you resist that little weighted companion cube? Prince of Persia. The Sands of Time is one of those games that feels like pure magic the moment you take control. The parkour, the acrobatics, the way the prince flips across walls and swings from poles, it all flows so naturally that it almost feels like dancing through danger. And then there's the time mechanic, which is just genius. Made a mistake? Rewind and try again. It's simple, but it changes everything, turning what could be frustration into pure fun. The story, too, is surprisingly charming. You follow this prince who's clever, witty, and just a little cocky, paired with a princess who's not just there for decoration finally, someone who feels like a real partner in the adventure. And the world itself? Beautiful, mysterious, and packed with secrets that make exploration feel rewarding. Even in 2026, Sands of Time still feels fresh, thrilling, and a little bit magical. You can't help but smile or chuckle when you nail a crazy jump or pull off a perfect fight combo. It's a game that's aged like fine sand in an hourglass, timeless, elegant, and unforgettable. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood takes everything you loved about Ezio's story in Assassin's Creed 2 and just expands it beautifully. The streets of Rome feel alive in a way that Florence could only dream of, packed with citizens, hidden alleys, and monuments that are a joy to climb and explore. What really makes this entry stand out is the Brotherhood system. You're not just Ezio anymore. You're building a team, training fellow assassins, and calling on them when things get intense. It adds this layer of strategy and connection that's surprisingly satisfying. The story keeps that perfect mix of personal stakes and political intrigue, with moments that make you pause and just take in the world around you. And let's be honest, parkouring across rooftops in Rome never gets old. Even in 2026, Brotherhood still hits that sweet spot between freedom, action, and narrative, and it's one of those games where revisiting it feels like greeting an old friend who's just as sharp and witty as you remember. God of War, 2005, is pure, unfiltered adrenaline wrapped in a story that actually hits. From the very first moment Kratos enters the world of Greek mythology, you feel the weight of his rage and the stakes of his journey. The combat is brutal, smooth, and endlessly satisfying. You're not just swinging blades, you're chaining combos, dodging attacks, and feeling every hit land. But what keeps it legendary even in 2026 is the story beneath all the action. Kratos isn't just some mindless warrior. He's conflicted, haunted by his past, and driven by a very human pain that makes you care even while you're destroying gods. The set pieces are cinematic, the puzzles are smart enough to break up the chaos without slowing you down, and the world feels massive yet perfectly guided. And honestly, there's a quiet thrill in seeing just how over the top the fights can get while still feeling fair. God of War didn't just launch a franchise, it set a standard for storytelling, action, and sheer spectacle that's still unforgettable today. Metal Gear Solid 3. Snake Eater is a masterpiece that blends espionage, survival, and storytelling like no other. From the moment you drop into the dense Soviet jungle as Naked Snake, the game pulls you in with tension, strategy, and some seriously memorable moments. You're not just sneaking past guards, you're hunting, camouflaging, rationing food, and figuring out how to survive in a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. And the story, oh man, the story is something else. Themes of loyalty, betrayal, and the cost of war hit hard, while characters like the boss and Ocelot leave an impression that sticks long after the game ends. Even the small touches, the way the camera shakes when a distant gun fires, or how the weather affects your movements, make the world feel alive. And yeah, the cutscenes can be long, but they're worth it because the narrative payoff is huge. In 2026, Snake Eater still feels cinematic, tense, and brilliant. A game that challenges you not just to play, but to think and feel in ways very few games manage. Resident Evil 4 is one of those rare games that somehow manages to be tense, thrilling, and endlessly replayable all at once. From the moment Leon steps into that eerie village, you feel this mix of curiosity and dread, and it never really lets up. Every encounter with the villagers, every chase, every boss fight keeps your heart racing, but it's smart tension, not cheap scares. The controls, camera angles, and pacing were revolutionary for their time and still feel solid in 2026, making every firefight satisfyingly precise. And the story? It balances horror, action, and just the right amount of humor in Leon's dry quips, like yes, the man can still make you chuckle while you're sweating bullets. Exploring the creepy environments, uncovering hidden treasures, and figuring out how to survive with limited resources gives it a grounded survival feel that modern games often forget. Resident Evil 4 doesn't just hold up. It shows how a game can be fun, scary, and clever all at the same time, leaving a mark that's impossible to shake. Silent Hill 2 is the kind of game that stays with you long after you turn it off. From the moment James walks into that foggy, eerie town, you feel this mix of unease and curiosity that never really goes away. The atmosphere is unreal fog, dim lights, strange sounds echoing in empty streets. It's haunting in the best possible way. But what really makes it timeless is the story. James isn't a hero in the traditional sense. He's human, flawed, and desperate. And the town reflects that back at him in ways that are deeply unsettling and emotional. The monsters aren't just there to scare you, they feel symbolic, personal, almost like parts of James's mind manifesting in the world. And the soundtrack. It's subtle, minimal, and somehow manages to creep under your skin without overdoing it. Even in 2026, Silent Hill 2 isn't just a horror game. It's an experience, one that's emotional, psychological, and completely unforgettable. Every time you replay it, you notice something new, a detail you missed, or a moment that hits harder than you remembered. God of War 3 takes everything that made the first game amazing and just cranks it up to absolute insanity. From the opening moments, you feel the sheer scale of Kratos' vengeance as he storms Mount Olympus, and the game never lets up. The combat is over the top, fluid, and insanely satisfying. You're chaining combos, dodging massive attacks, and feeling every hit land with weight. But it's not just mindless action. The story carries that same emotional punch from the original. Kratos is still haunted by loss, rage, and the consequences of his past, and that makes every encounter feel personal. The set pieces are cinematic, from massive battles with gods to jaw-dropping environmental moments, and the soundtrack pushes the intensity even further. Even in 2026, God of War 3 still feels epic, relentless, and completely thrilling. There's a reason it's remembered as one of the pinnacles of action gaming. It's chaotic, emotional, and brilliantly crafted, and playing it still gives that rush you can't fake. Fallout. New Vegas is one of those games where the world feels endless, dangerous, and completely alive all at once. You step into the Mojave Wasteland, and immediately you're confronted with choices that matter: factions to join, people to trust or betray, and moral decisions that aren't ever black and white. The freedom is intoxicating. You can sneak through a raider camp, talk your way out of a firefight, or just wander for hours discovering hidden locations that tell their own little stories. And the dialogue. Oh man, the writing is sharp, often funny, and packed with personality. Even your companions feel like real people, each with quirks, grudges, and their own agendas. The mechanics might feel a little old school in 2026, but that only adds charm. When you finally make a choice that changes the course of an entire town, or wipes out a faction you've spent hours getting to know, it sticks with you. New Vegas isn't just about surviving the wasteland, it's about shaping it, and that level of freedom and consequence is still unmatched in single-player RPGs.
Get him off!
BioShock is one of those rare games that grabs you by the imagination from the very first moments and doesn't let go. Descending into rapture, you're immediately struck by the Art Deco beauty, the eerie silence, and the sense that something has gone horribly wrong, but in the best, most compelling way. The world tells its story without shouting it at you. Posters on walls, voices from the past, and the quiet, unsettling sounds of the city itself. And then there's the gameplay combining guns, plasmids, and environmental interaction to create combat that feels smart and exciting without ever overwhelming you. But what really makes BioShock legendary, even in 2026, is how it balances story, theme, and emotion. Every twist, every reveal, every moral choice carries weight, and by the time the credits roll, you've been on a journey that's both thrilling and surprisingly personal. It's a game that doesn't just entertain, it makes you think, feel, and occasionally shiver with awe. BioShock isn't just timeless, it's unforgettable. Dragon Age. Origins is the kind of RPG that makes you feel like the world is alive, even when you're just wandering around talking to people. From the moment you step into Ferelden, you're faced with choices that matter: factions to join, alliances to build, and characters whose lives feel real and complex. The combat is tactical, rewarding patience and planning, but it never slows down the excitement of exploring castles, forests, and battlefields filled with danger and secrets. And the companions. Wow! Each one has a personality, a history, and reactions that make you care about them in ways most games can't match. There's humor, there's tragedy, and there's that perfect mix of epic fantasy and intimate character moments that stick with you long after you put down the controller. Even in 2026, Dragon Age. Origins still feels like a rich living world you can lose yourself in for hours, where every decision echoes in ways both subtle and dramatic. It's one of those games that reminds you why role-playing games can be so emotionally powerful. The Last of Us is one of those rare games that hits you emotionally in a way that sticks long after you've played it. From the first moments, you feel the weight of this post-apocalyptic world. The tension, the danger, and the fragile hope threaded through every encounter. Joel and Ellie's relationship is the heart of the game, and it grows naturally with moments of humor, warmth, and heartbreak that feel completely earned. The combat is tense and immersive. Every fight, every stealth sequence makes you feel like survival is never guaranteed, which keeps your pulse up and your mind engaged. But what really makes The Last of Us timeless in 2026 is how human it feels. The world around you is decayed, brutal, and dangerous, yet full of stories and people that make it feel alive. By the time the credits roll, you're not just finishing a game, you've experienced a journey that lingers with you, a story that's as heartbreaking as it is unforgettable. And there you have it, 20 timeless single-player games that still feel legendary in 2026. Each one of these games isn't just about gameplay or graphics, they're about the worlds they built, the stories they told, and the moments that stayed with us long after the credits rolled. From sprawling open worlds to intimate emotional journeys, from chaotic action to tense survival, these games remind us why single-player experiences matter so much. Revisiting them isn't just nostalgia, it's a chance to relive moments that made us laugh, cheer, or even sit quietly, stunned by a story twist or a breathtaking view. Whether it's climbing rooftops in Rome, wandering the Mojave Wasteland, or sneaking through a foggy, haunted town, these games prove that great storytelling, clever design, and unforgettable characters never go out of style. So, which of these games will you dive back into first? Or maybe there's a favorite that wasn't on the list that you can't stop thinking about. Drop your picks in the comments. I'd love to hear what legendary worlds you're planning to revisit in 2026. And remember, sometimes the best way to move forward as a gamer is to step back into these timeless adventures one more time.